What's going on, everybody? It's that time again. The AllSooners podcast, post-game edition. I don't remember the number. 147?
Yep.
I think it is.
147. Certified fresh.
After what we saw on that field today, I'm a little hazy, as you might guess. Oklahoma, we're at A&G Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, Texas. Josh Callaway, John Hoover, Ryan Chapman.
Cleaning crews out there cleaning up the mess. No, not that mess. The crowd mess.
We're in the press box up here in A&G. The only ones here, as we typically are. It helps us. Honestly, I don't know how we would do it if we weren't, because people would just be looking at us like, shut up.
Yep.
But we're the only ones here, staying late for you guys, 'cause that's what we do.
It's not late. It's, what'd you say, 7:40?
7:47 when we started.
7:45. Okay, it's not late, I acknowledge, but we've been here since 8 o'clock this morning.
Yeah, so when you
Let's be
factor
real.
that in, now it was like 9. We got to like the campus at 8 and took until about 9 to get in. As the traffic situation getting into the stadium.
We got to the campus at 8. We got about 2 streets away from the stadium at 9, and I think we pulled into the parking lot at about 11:45. It felt like.
Yeah, a little before the game, before kickoff.
The post-game podcast is not presented to you by Mountain Dew, but it may look like it. We all got our dues. We're ready. And this is like my 5th one.
Some of us have a 5-hour drive tonight.
Yeah, that's
Some
just,
of us.
That's just machine. That's nothing for you. You've done worse. You've done worse.
Plug into the cigarette lighter, and plug your adapter, and
Recharge,
Robot
yeah.
Hoover will make
Charge
it
while you drive.
Yeah.
We're going to need it after today's game. If you're watching this, you know. And I feel like we should say right off the top, and anybody who watches us regularly is very well aware, this is not the show of sunshine pumping. If that's what you're hoping for, you're in the wrong place, quite frankly, because
We make a lot of enemies.
some people don't like it. It's what are you looking for? If you just want, the positive spin thing, we're not going to really do that for you.
That
Because
podcast over there.
that's out there. You can find that.
You can find that.
That's not what we do, right? And it was really bad today. Oklahoma got crushed by TCU, 55-24. There's no other way to spin it. They got mangled in every facet of the game. As we typically do, we'll break it down, offense, defense. We'll talk about all the injuries. We're going to lay it all out there for you. That's what this show is for. But let me start off. Simple question. What the hell happened? Oklahoma got crushed by TCU today. No, people that thought TCU could win this game. We all picked OU to win this game. Close.
Yep.
Nobody thought that was going to happen.
How did this get to this point where Oklahoma football is going on the road and getting blown out a week after getting blown out, or not blown out, a week after getting out physicaled at home against Kansas State? They come on the road and get blown out by TCU. How did that happen? We asked all the players that came in for interviews. We asked all the coaches that came in for interviews. Guess what the answer was? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ask him. Ask that. No, nobody was pointing fingers or pushing blame or anything like that. But really, truly, nobody had any answers. And that's got to be frustrating for those guys because they're coming off a month of practice and a month of games, and they're going into this game and they're thinking, all right, I think we got this figured out.
Yeah.
And apparently they don't.
Little Freudian slip by you, I guess. You said blown out last week. It was 41-34 last week against K-State. The
Felt
game,
like a blowout.
the
It
game
felt
was
worse.
not that close.
Yeah.
55-24. The game was not that close.
Yeah.
TCU could have named their score. They had 668 yards of total offense. Holy crap. That's Max Duggan out there, by the way. It's not like Chandler Morris came in, new
Joe
life,
Burrow.
new blood.
Who? Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Right? Come on. This guy was not Joe Burrow, and he put on a Joe Burrow performance.
Yeah, Max Duggan started the year as a backup quarterback. Sorry, who's going to yell at me for those of you listening on the podcast for hitting the table. Apologies. But Max Duggan didn't win the starting quarterback job out of camp. And he made it look easy today. It didn't matter. Oklahoma, if there were coverage busts, first off, which gave Max Duggan 2 easy 60-yard-plus touchdown throws. Kenai Walker didn't seal the corner on Max Duggan's huge touchdown run. But all day today, it felt like if TCU wanted a free 15 yards, all they had to do was just throw the ball somewhat down the field, and either Woody Washington or Jaden Davis or Trey Morrison was going to tackle a wide receiver, not even close to getting their head turned around, and only Trey Morrison got away with the robbery there, with the very clear PI that wasn't called. Nothing went right today, offense, defense, it didn't matter. Oklahoma has no answers, like you said, John, and we'll do the scope, what does it mean for the season at the very end, but spoiler alert, not good.
Not good. You mentioned the free 15 yards. If they needed 9 yards, they just hand off tackle against Oklahoma's 3-man front, which was a disaster today, an absolute disaster. They were getting 5, 6, 7, 8 yards a chunk, and then they would pop the long ones, 36-yard, a 72-yard, a 69-yard. What? Against a defense that, guys, after week 1 and week 2, and certainly week 3 against Nebraska, we all said, boy, they pursue the football. Mm-hmm. They go sideline to sideline. They fly around the field. They tackle better than they've been tackling in years. 2 weeks later, we're back here. We're here on the road in Fort Worth, Texas, and we're wondering what the hell happened.
Yeah, let's dive in. Obviously, normally, I say normally, we typically start with offense, then go defense. Last week we started with defense. I think we start with defense again because, like Ryan was saying, Adrian Martinez, well documented, whatever college quarterback, average, fine, whatever, not a Heisman candidate, sure. Not future NFL, anything like that. He balled out last week. Well talked about. We talked about all week. It was talked about nationally what he did to Oklahoma.
He said it was the best game of my life,
and it was. It definitely was. Max Duggan
did the same thing.
Maybe he did. I'd have to look at Martinez's numbers again, but Duggan, good lord,
234 and 168.
Put him in the Heisman conversation after tonight. 23 of 33 passing, 302 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a passer rating of 176.6. Can I interest you in his rushing numbers as well? 5 carries for 116 yards, 2 more touchdowns. That's an average of over 23 yards per carry.
What?
From Mr. Duggan.
Put that together. Yards a carry.
I mean, put that together. He essentially like Kyler Murray at Oklahoma, and he's Max Duggan. He's not Kyler Murray,
right?
But he had Kyler Murray numbers against Oklahoma. The defense, I mean, the missed tackles everywhere and terrible. What's the right word?
Angles again.
Yes, all game, and just constantly like a throw on the flat, and somebody's got a shot at a running back or receiver one-on-one, and he can't make it. He busts it off for 10-plus yards. It's just all that progress and all those good things that we thought we saw, it's just gone. I mean, this was worse defensively than anything I can remember last year, at least.
I went back and looked. You don't have to go very far. 2014 was the last time Oklahoma lost a conference game like this.
Yeah.
48-14 at home to Baylor. Everybody remembers that one. That game wasn't as pronounced as this one was. That game, Baylor, if I remember right, really got going in the third quarter. Remember those little slants they were throwing, and the fans started booing, and Bob Stoops got mad at everybody. That game got going in the third quarter. This was going from the third play of the game.
Yeah.
It was the fumble on the third offensive play. Next play, TCU touchdown, and they were off to the races. That kind of beat down, I don't ever remember covering one of those. Maybe 40-6 in the Russell Athletic Bowl when they played that bad Clemson team without Deshaun Watson. And who was the defensive coordinator in that one? Brent Venables.
That's kind of serendipitous.
Yeah, well,
last time they took a beating this bad, Brent Venables was on the other sideline administering the beating.
Yeah,
well, and he had some dudes then. You're looking up and down this defense. What you thought was, okay, there are young pieces or guys that, I mean, if you want to call it junior, young, but unproven, a guy like a Reggie Grimes who was a rotational piece. Coming into the year, we're like, okay, can a Reggie Grimes eat the downs? Can they make that step up? Is this finally the year that it clicks for Deshaun White, David Agwebu? You've got linebacker guru Brent Venables coming in. You've got Ted Roof coming in. So you've got the named defensive coordinator and the head coach both going to be on top of the linebackers. Woody Washington, can he stay healthy, play his first year? Oh my gosh, we're finally going to get Billy Bowman and Key Lawrence at safety. Finally, difference makers at safety. Nothing mattered. Not a single bright spot. We were talking with Jesse Crittenden from the Norman Transcript kind of after the game, and there was a moment where Deshaun White has a surefire pick six. He pulls that in. He's going to walk into the end zone. I think that would have cut the lead back to...
right at the end of the first half.
What about to 10? Yeah, it would have cut the lead to 10. So you're still playing without Dylan Gabriel, which we'll get to. Still don't feel great about it, but at least you can go into the half and at least tell yourself, all right, defense, put all that behind you. If you can pull it together, find yourselves in the second half, rally around your guy. Instead, it tips off Deshaun White's hands, lands for a TCU first down. Like, in the hands of a TCU wide receiver for a first down. That's indicative of what everything the OU defense has been in the last 2 weeks. 8 straight quarters of that.
We mentioned it was all bad, right? There was no positive. No positive.
Javonte Barnes, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Defensively. I meant
defensively.
So I was going to ask, it was all bad. There was no bright spot.
Yeah.
So let's flip it the other way, defensively. What's the most concerning? Is there anything, is it secondary? Is it the linebackers who just seemingly can't get it going at all? Is it the pass rush? I mean, they get in Duggan's face. It was a total replay from my perspective from last week. They get through,
close to him,
but they just, Martinez and Duggan, they evade and they find a guy down the field. Is there one level that's obviously the biggest problem, or is it just kind of it's all of it?
It's all of it. Did you see how open the receivers were?
Justin
Broyles jumped him back out of the backfield when he had deep halves, deep cover 2. I don't know exactly what the coverage was underneath, but it was cover 2 in the back. He turned the receiver who was running right at him, turned him loose, and said, "You got him, Justin Harrington, like man free. You're the man back there." That was not the coverage that Brent Venables called.
Well, it happened on both 60-yard pass plays. Brent Venables talked about in the postgame, which I would encourage you to go to allsooners.com. We've got that entire thing. That's a head coach that is frustrated and one that he's confused because he goes through about, guys, seriously, half the press conference is him running down every single, your coach to do this, and this is what happens. It started on the very first play of the game. The very first play of the game, he talks about an RPO coming out of the backfield. When Brent Venables talks, it's as simple as this. If you're the corner, you set the edge. What happened? The corner doesn't set the edge, gets Oklahoma on their heels. They never recovered. And to me, that reeks of a defense top to bottom that's lacking of players that have football instincts.
That's what I was going to say. You know what it reminds me of? And Ryan, you attest better, know what I'm talking about a little more so than probably who. It reminds me of Porter Moser, the basketball team last year, where toward the end of the year there was a frustration with Moser, and he would never say it obviously, but it was, I just don't have the guys. I'm doing everything I can, I don't have the guys. It was very similar because just what you're saying, we coached the set the edge and first drive, he there's a lot of frustration. You can feel it, and he doesn't know what to do. And it reminded me, it was very similar to hearing Moser talk last year, where he's like, I just don't have the players I need to make this happen.
I think if it were just they're fine, 60-yard touchdown over the top. They're fine, another coverage bust, mental error, 60-yard touchdown over the top, then I think you'd say, okay, they're almost there if they can just put it all together mentally. Maybe you blame it on the new system, all that stuff. But when it's play after play after play, not fitting the run, at some point, someone has to go out there and say, 10 of you guys might be sucking today, but I can at least see that you're missing the fit, and I know that maybe this is not what I'm supposed to do, but the football player in me is going to have me peek over here and say, boom, I got lucky, caught a guy, blow up a play, something like that. You're not seeing any of that for 8 straight quarters. So this to me just reeks of a defense that just lacks any instinct, that just innate football IQ. When we talk about
they're lost.
The summer of recruiting, right? How many times did this summer, when we're talking about the recruits and all that stuff, did we pull up the highlight tape that you put together, Josh, and go, you can just tell that this is just a football player. He's around the football. He knows what to do, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Since the ball kicked off against Kansas State, what defensive player would you just describe as a football player?
Right. It's not happening right now.
The only one that's been fine last week was Billy Bowman, and he left in the second drive because he pulled up and got hurt on kickoff.
I was going to say, somebody who maybe fits in that category would maybe be Jaron Kanik, who we haven't seen at all hardly the last 2 weeks. I'm on the field, so I have a little bit different perspective, but did he get any snaps today?
Yeah, late in the second half he did.
When it's over.
Yeah, he didn't get any meaningful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I don't know. The defense,
here's the deal.
Was the defense as bad today as anything that Grinch ever put out? I don't want to do that whole comparison thing, but...
Yeah, no, it was. You can compare.
It felt 2018-ish
It's fair.
to me
Very fair.
today.
The Mike Stoops, end of the Mike Stoops era is what this felt like today, where nobody knew what was going on. Here's the deal. Brent Venables said in Lincoln, Nebraska, Jaron Kanik has no idea what he's doing. I saw 11 guys out there today who nobody had any idea what they were doing. And I mean nobody. There were busts, there were missed fits, there were missed tackles, there were missed assignments. There were guys passing coverages off that weren't there. And there was guys getting hooked up in the front line, the defensive line. And they were just, like they did last week, leaning on their blockers. That's not how you attack. That's not how you get off blocks and go get the quarterback. You don't lean on your blocker. I don't know if the heat got to him today or what. Listen, Venables talked, what do you say, 43 straight days? They did some kind of inside drill. They did some kind of physical tackling drill. Has that gotten in the players' legs already in the first week of October, where they come into a game and they're just gassed?
No.
Well,
that's a new thing for this team, for these players. That's a new thing.
Very new.
Well, not if you're Schmitty-Bill. It can't be the summer of Schmitty-Bill and then a little bit of inside drill kills your legs before Texas. It can't be that. And I think
Spring and summer with Schmitty, maybe they're just worn down?
Well,
We're looking for answers. We're not making excuses. We're looking for answers for what the hell happened.
Well, but
we don't know.
here's the other side of that, though, right? How many times we had all the former players, all that stuff, the Summer of Schmitty. What was the one thing they talked about? Summers with Schmitty are more about a mindset than anything else, right? It's supposed to be he's going to push you to your breaking point so that you know, no, I've got more in the tank, blah, 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 yada, yada. This defense has been mentally Charmin soft for 2 straight weeks. So it doesn't matter physical stuff, throw that out the window because that's not what's happening. And Hoove, you asked about the physicality, point blank. This is on AllSooners.com. And at one point, Brett Venables was just like, you could tell he wanted to say, at some point, it's not about team physicality. It's about someone stepping up and making a dang play. Because he went through, like, at some point, he used strain, but he went into, like, some point, someone's going to shed a block. Someone's got to do this. Someone's got to do that. Someone's got to just cover. You know what I mean? Because there were times where in coverage they were in position, and it looked like a Kerry Cook secondary. No one was interested in turning
exactly
around.
What I said.
Yeah.
Kerry Cooks ain't walking through that door, guys. You can turn around and play that ball anytime you want. Pass interference, 4 of them today.
Should have been 5. Trey
Morrison.
Morrison shot it with an all-time heist on just smoking the receiver for the ball out there and got away with it. And that resulted in a stop. And there was like a little bit of momentum, and no, you didn't do anything with it. So that's kind of how it went today. Well, like Ryan said, we'll talk about the full scope of where the heck Oklahoma goes from here coming up in just a little bit. Let's flip over to the offense. Now, offense in this game was
Barnes,
awful.
End of story. Javonte Barnes.
Yeah, he was the bright spot. He had a bigger role today because Marcus Major wasn't here. We don't know why. I was told that he practiced all week, so I don't know.
He was at practice. He turned down our interview request. Remember?
That's true.
Was that this week? That was this week.
I was told that he practiced all week.
I think that's every week.
That's every
frankly.
week.
I don't know. We don't know why it didn't come up in post game. There was other things to talk about. So we'll find out obviously early this week where he is, why he missed this game, and if he'll be back next week. But there was a bigger role for Javonte Barnes. He pretty much took advantage of it. Eric Gray still did fine, relatively.
Took advantage of it. 18 carries, 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kid's a future star.
Oh, I think we already knew that.
Yeah, he runs at a little different pace than everybody else.
Yeah, no, he's a beast, and he came in when
Trying
Bevel
to be
took
positive
over.
Here, Josh.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, I was gonna say is that the offense was bad, obviously, but you give Levy the small asterisk of he didn't have Gabriel for most of this game. Then Gabriel goes down in the second quarter, and here comes my opportunity to toot my horn a little bit, a tiny bit. Last week we did this show in the press box in Norman, and we talked about the people who, not a ton, but there is a group out there that try to throw a lot on Dylan Gabriel, and he's been bad. We talked about that. But I promised you that there was not another option, and I talked about it all offseason in the fall camp, that they are screwed if Dylan Gabriel gets hurt. And you saw that today. Davis Bevel, God bless him, he's not Oklahoma quarterback caliber. He's just
same exact numbers as Dylan Gabriel. 7 of 16.
Completion,
Both
not yardage.
quarterbacks were 7 of 16.
Look at that yardage difference.
Yeah,
He had less than half the
50,
yards in the same completions. Bevel, they have no shot next week if Dylan Gabriel's out. So Dylan Gabriel goes out. The offense wasn't great with him. He was missing lots of throws. Obviously, completion percentage below 50%, like we just said. But they did score. They were moving it again. You feel like you still have at least a shot with Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah.
That is slam shot when he went out, at least in my mind.
Josh, he got KTFO'd. He was asleep on the field. He was out unconscious.
On a very late hit, too.
Cold. It was a bad hit. It was a kind of hit that has been legislated out. When the quarterback starts to slide, you just stop.
There's just no need.
You just stop.
For it.
I mean, he's already been marked back like where he began the slide, like 2 yards previous.
Right.
You don't see him sliding and then stick your arm in his face and hit him. It was a bad hit, and I understand the kid felt bad about it. They were saying on the TV broadcast that he was crying on the sidelines or something. That's listen, no malicious intent. It was just a quick bang thing that happened. But I say all this to say, I don't think he's playing next week. I don't think there's any chance that he plays next week. He was not out.
Yeah, David Agway called it a cheap shot. Everybody else kind of...
Brent Venables said, I didn't think much of it. It's a football play. It happens.
Everybody else basically was just like, what about it? But David Agway was the one that, if you see that, he's the one that called it the cheap shot. But
Marvin Mims said, you mess with family, you mess with all of us. It made him feel bad, but they couldn't do anything about it.
Let's go ahead and talk. What did you guys think about the reaction from, there was some pushing and shoving, but there wasn't, a lot.
The offensive, I think that because it happened so close to the OU sideline, Schmitty and Venables were immediately out there. The offensive line looked heated. My question to Marvin Mims would be, with all due respect, who's scared of messing with that family?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's what I thought of.
This might be the worst team in the Big 12, the way they played the last 2 weeks.
The way
Seriously.
they played the last
2
2
weeks. Yeah, it can change.
I got a text message during the game. What game on this schedule are they going to win? Playing like this? Forget it.
Yeah. No.
Kansas? Maybe. Iowa State?
Well, here's
maybe?
the 2 games that, based off what we've seen through Big 12 play, again, through the last 2 weeks, the 2 games you'd asterisk are Iowa State, West Virginia. I think those 2 teams look the weakest. Those are both road games.
On the road.
Yep.
You got Kansas
In
at
November.
home. Kansas at home, no shot.
Well, actually,
if you play like this, no shot.
If you play like this.
Jalen Daniels is a much better quarterback through 5 games than Adrian Martinez or Max Duggan.
Yep.
Yeah. And
He doesn't have the playmakers around him.
Yeah.
He might have 600 yards total offense if they play like this.
Yeah, and that's the important disclaimer if they play like this, because college football team, it's not a static thing.
Right.
It's an ecosystem and an organism, something I'm looking at. It changes what you get week to week, especially in college football with college kids. It is different. They could come out, and I don't think so if Gabriel's out, but they could come out next week and beat Texas and play great, and we're all saying like, wow, look, it turns around. I mean, that can happen.
Micah Bowen, Wishbone Wizard.
But what they did today will not beat anybody in the con.
You don't
We
think
won't.
so?
What they did today.
I was about to say, I mean, we sat in the Cotton Bowl and watched Tyrone Swoops win an OU Texas game.
18-wheeler.
You know what I mean?
Colt McCoy, not Colt McCoy.
Case
little brother,
McCoy.
Case
Yeah,
McCoy.
Case McCoy.
Flipped over.
Yep.
Did win that game. But
Did Ash win his, or was he?
Ash won one.
Yeah, so
We've seen Texas do it. And Quinn Ewers is supposedly, reportedly going to play that week.
well, here's
Maybe
where
Oklahoma can do it too.
Here's where Oklahoma is. We're now going to have the thought process of, let's rank Swoops, Case McCoy, and Ash and Davis Bevel and try to figure out who's the best quarterback of that crop. That's not a conversation you want to be having.
18-wheeler, man. 18-wheeler beat Baker Mayfield. That
Yes, he
happened
did.
at the Texas State Fair.
Yep.
What else on offense? These receivers are getting frustrated. The
There
body language
wasn't
is
a lot
bad.
of false start penalties today.
That's true. There was.
They go on the road for the
was
second time in a row.
one,
and,
just the one.
And there's not a lot of false starts. They come home and they can't stop false starting.
They
No.
corrected that. So shout out.
Well, it's just a home thing apparently.
Yeah, they actually do better. Well, they don't have anybody
do
yelling
better on the
boomer in
road.
their face.
That's
over and over.
true. That's true.
The receivers are getting frustrated. I mean, you could see it out there. Mims, Weiss, all of them.
Yeah.
I'm not any one guy in particular. They're getting open. They can't get to the ball.
Dylan was not good when he was out there.
No, he wasn't.
I hate to pile on because he's severely injured. He's got a bad concussion and all that stuff. He was not good. He was overthrowing guys by 3, 4, 5 feet. He overthrew one guy by 4 yards. Marvin Mims was open at the goal line. The ball sailed deep into the end zone. It was like, I don't know what's going on. RG3 said on the broadcast, I had my little earpiece in. I was listening to the delay broadcast on ESPN, ABC, I guess. And RG3 said several times they went into this big, long, it was during a timeout, big, long thing about
There
his
was a
feet.
lot of those.
He
It was a long
threw
game.
one ball and his front foot was like way out. Like you should not throw a football when your stance is that wide. You need to have your base under you, and you're turning and twisting, and here comes the shoulder, and you follow through. He was just stepping and throwing, and the ball was coming out weird, and it was fluttering, and he was not able to fix it. That's what got me. The one throw to Braden Willis was amazing. It was a great throw. It was a great catch, and 2 great blocks by Jaden
Gibson.
Yes.
I actually think, weirdly enough, the best play of the game for Dylan Gabriel was an incompletion. It was the one incompletion that probably wasn't on him, where
Yeah, the drop.
the right side of the line gets totally smoked. Gabriel rolls out to his left, finds Gibson releasing, and Gibson tips it once, tips it twice, unable to come away with it.
Yep.
Like you mentioned, Gibson came back and made up for that with the 2 great blocks on that Willis non-touchdown that was punched in one play later. I guess the one good thing is the goal line offense is still really good. Not that they ever get there, but the goal line offense has been efficient.
Eric Gray was not touched.
Yeah. So
Right through there.
I think the other thing, too, is you kind of touched on this grazed by it when we mentioned, we'll get into the injuries here in a second, but Wanya Morris goes down. I think you're seeing that, and someone that we've both worked with a ton, Sam Mays, he'll tell you, right, former offensive lineman, it only takes one guy coming out for the entire cohesiveness of that unit to just get flush. And I thought the line was okay, but something that Gabriel could have managed, where maybe he had the yips a little bit, but it was still mostly on Gabriel missing throws. Once one named Morris left the game, anytime TCU would dial up anything, like they were in the backfield.
And all we were told all week was that's a very average offensive line from TCU and a very average defensive line from TCU. And those guys were anything but average today.
I don't even know where to go. Yeah, I mean, offensively, yeah. I mean, it was with the Gabriel. I mean, they might have had a shot to hang in this game if Gabriel doesn't get hurt. What was the score when Gabriel got hurt? It was 34-10.
Yeah, they were down.
They finished that drive and scored.
They were down 24 because 3 straight runs, Gray, and then Barnes. His first touchdown cut it to 17. Again, there was, I think that the ensuing drive is when Deshaun White had the chance for the pick 6 that would have cut it to 10. And then suddenly, like if you do that, look, Oklahoma was a long way away from being competitive in this game, whatever the scoreboard said. But there was a moment where if you do that and if the defense comes back out and gets a stop to close the half, Britt Venables might have been able to go into the halftime locker room and say, look, guys, as bad as we played last week, that was worse. Look up at the scoreboard. It's still just 10 points, all that stuff. But all that
and they did get a stop.
Yeah.
Kind of. Trey Morrison aided.
Yeah,
PBU.
correct.
But, and then they didn't do anything. And then, obviously, they get that score back the other way. The Deshaun White should have been pick 6. All that good stuff. So, man.
Before we move on, you mentioned the wide receivers being frustrated. I had this conversation with you guys kind of before we started while we were back on the other end of the press box down there, hammering away for your pleasure, AllSooners.com, plenty of content. But on the second drive of the game, who's probably annoyed about me talking about this because I'm just very confused with what we saw. But Jeff Lebby, 3 straight times, came out and showed an empty set, then motioned guys back into the backfield. The first play, Marvin Mims comes in, stands at running back, takes a swing pass out of the backfield. The second play, Jalil Farouk comes in, takes a swing pass out of the backfield. The third play, Drake Stoops has like a jet sweep action coming across, taking a carry. I'm now curious if Eric Gray's the guy, right? They've told us that over and over. Eric Gray's had his 2 best games as a Sooner the last 2 weeks. But on the second drive, to immediately go away from Eric Gray and go out of your way, I wonder if that's Jeff Lebby's way of we've got to keep these wide receivers engaged, and hopefully if they get into rhythm early, maybe they can come up with some big plays. I'm just trying to see what that was, other than just, to your point, who Jeff Lebby outsmarting himself.
Yeah, I thought it was 3 really well designed plays and well conceived and well executed. Yeah, get the ball to the wide receivers. Those some of your best players. Because if you're throwing 8-yard outs and 10-yard curls and corner flags and stuff like that, if you're throwing that stuff and throwing it 5 feet over their head, they're going to get discouraged. So maybe that was good coaching.
Marvin Mims, I talked about they couldn't give him the ball. It wasn't for lack of trying. He did have 11 targets today.
10 targets is what this box says. 4 catches.
I got 11 on the official stats. Got controversy here.
Controversy.
Either way, they threw him the ball. He couldn't even make a play on it because the throws were way over his head.
How many they got Farouk with on that one? This one says 5.
5.
Yeah, so only 2 catches for Farouk.
Same deal. These guys are getting open.
Every one of these guys down this list, you go down this list, 8 receivers had at least 2 targets. Every one of them had a ball go over their head at some point.
And they were usually open. Let's go ahead and segue into the injury part of this. So, we touched a little bit already. We mentioned Gabriel, mentioned Billy Bowman.
Mentioned
Marcus
Marcus
on the
Major.
offensive line. Major wasn't here. I don't know if it's injury.
Didn't suit up. Don't know.
He wasn't even here. Right?
He wasn't here.
They don't usually, guys who aren't going to play don't typically travel. So that's not normal, but not normal. But again, I was told he practiced all week. So maybe something happened late in the week or something. I really don't know. We'll have to find out what is up with that. You're missing, your entire line was banged up. Wanye and Anton Harrison both left this game. Raym and Matoya were limping everywhere and missed snaps at some point. Right.
Raym limped off on the same drive where Harrison spent some time on the field and was helped off. Then Raym limped off after a failed 4th down conversion. It was coming to us, so that had to be in the 3rd quarter. So that was in the 3rd quarter. Now, both Raym and Harrison and Matauer came back into the game in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah.
So they were obviously good enough to go. Wanye Morris obviously didn't come back.
Yeah. Left shoulder in a sling. Walked off like this.
Yeah.
In the chicken wing.
In the 3rd quarter, Eric Gray and Theo Weiss, they both got banged up. Based off how Brent Venables talked about those versus some of the other ones, spinning that forward, it felt like that was a we're not getting back into this one. There's no need to
push it
because I mean, I was standing by Eric Gray as the team walked off the field. He was talking to his family, stuff like that, with his helmet, all that stuff. So that didn't feel like a guy that was worried if he's playing in the Texas game next week or not. But at one point, after that fourth down where Harrison and Ray limped off the field, 6 of the 11 offensive starters that started the game had spent time on the carpet here at Amon G. Carter Stadium, and we were curious if they were going to return to the game. 6 of the 11.
Yeah, it was. They were dropping like flies today, and this doesn't even include the scariest injury of the day, which is Damon Harmon, who goes down. He was down, and who you've been in a lot more games than me. That was the longest injury stoppage.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just hard to even continue the game at that point. He was down for 20 minutes. They were attending to him.
Yeah, at least 20 minutes. Older fans will remember Manuel Johnson, one of the 3 freshman wide receivers in the 05 class that came in, got on the field with Bomar, Malcolm Kelly, Joaquin Iglesias. The other one's Malcolm Kelly out here coaching today for TCU. Manny Johnson got hit, and his kind of below the neck, I guess, kind of everything went dead. It was just a stinger. Thankfully, he's okay. He came out. We were all terrified. I was like, I've never covered one of these before. I don't ever want to cover one of these. What we heard today in the aftermath was, I think it was Gabe Eichard tweeted that he is being told that he's moving his extremities and is responsive. They took him to a local hospital here in Fort Worth.
We have an update. At 7:30 p.m., this is from OU Football's official Twitter account.
Yep.
All scans on OU defensive back Damon Harmon were negative, and he has been released from a Fort Worth hospital. He is on his way back to Norman, where he will continue to receive care.
What time was that?
And that was at 7:30 p.m. So right as we started the podcast.
Yeah. So that's the best possible news. But that was some scary stuff.
Very. Yeah.
I walked right by the medical team. Okay, so they've got us here in this facility. We walk like we're on the field, and then we walk up the ramp. And at the top of the ramp is the OU medical room, training room, locker room, nutrition room. It's all right there in front of us. And as I'm walking up the ramp, the doctors are 1, 2, 3, 4 right in front of me, and they're just standing there, and their faces are white, and they're got that look on their face like that did not just happen. And I saw their faces, and I thought, oh, no, that's the worst possible. You know, you're trying to draw conclusions and connect dots, and thankfully he is doing better.
Yeah.
All scans are negative.
Well, it was scary. And you know it took a really long time because with about 9, 8, 7 minutes left, like we're conditioned that we head down to the field level so we can kind of get all the color of guys coming off the field, all that stuff. Damon Harmon had been down for a few minutes by the time that I had got to an elevator, got all the way down, and by the time I got to the bottom, that's just then when I was walking out, that's when they were wheeling the cart out onto the field, and that's when I said it. And I come out of the tunnel, and you still had both teams on one knee, just surrounded, and that's when you're just like...
We had to get out of the way of the cart.
Yeah, it was goodness, please hope that everything ends up being okay from that scenario. And Brent Venables said in the post-game press conference that Harmon had a history of back injuries. So
we didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah, and they immediately came out there and said, first thing was, with Harmon's history, stabilize. That's what Brent Venables said after the game.
So, yeah, obviously a lot of thoughts with him. We talked to him earlier this season. I can't remember what week that was. Obviously, really nice kid and all that. So
I think it was after Nebraska because he was the one that was the extra defensive back in the 3-man front for Nebraska.
Right. Yeah. Good call. So yeah, hopefully he's okay. We'll be giving updates on that as we go. Good. Obviously, it sounds like good news, at least early indications for Damon Harmon, and just kind of tacked on what was obviously a really rough day for Oklahoma on the field, but just health. Yeah, so many injuries. Then you have that right at the end.
And Dylan Gabriel and Damon Harmon laying on the ground, virtually not moving whatsoever. Both of them scary as hell.
Yeah, extremely. So we'll keep an update on him. All those guys, obviously, as well. Coming up, it's going to be. Might spend the first 5 minutes of Brett's presser on Tuesday just talking about injuries because there was a lot today. Kind of adding injury to insult, I guess is the better way to put it. From what happened today, you lose by as much as you did, and also they just got beat up.
We're in basically almost downtown Fort Worth area ish. How far is Dallas from here? Like 35 miles, 40 miles?
I don't know. Something like that. That sounds right.
7 days. We'll be right over there.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We're not going to take.
What the heck?
We're not going to take too long.
We're not ready for that game. I don't think the Oklahoma football team's ready for that game, but we'll see.
Yeah, we're not going to take too long on this postgame show. We want to get out of here. Who's going to go back to Tulsa? We're already like 35 minutes deep. So let's go ahead and spin it forward. We talked about it a little bit already. The schedule, there are not wins on it. Obviously they have to play better, but there's not one game on there, not one, that you can circle and say, there's no way they lose that. That doesn't exist because Kansas is 5-0. And they might be a road favorite in Norman in 2 weeks. That may be our reality. That might happen. West Virginia is probably the worst team in the conference. I still probably lean that, but that game is in Morgantown. That's not an easy place to play by any stretch. And they did just hammer Virginia Tech, who's not good, but they hammered them. The rest of the Big 12 is looking good. I would have said before today, TCU is probably one of the bottom 2 or 3 teams. Look what just happened.
Yeah.
So Oklahoma right now, they're 3-2.
Texas Tech is in Lubbock too, isn't it?
It's in Lubbock to end the year,
Yeah.
last game of the season. So your mind starts to go to a dark place very quickly when you look at this team. You look at the schedule and you're saying, if things don't turn around quickly, how many games is this team going to lose? And is bowl eligibility going to be in question? We're still really early for that.
We were talking earlier tonight about the bowl possibilities. There may be no bowl.
I don't even know. As somebody who covers Oklahoma, I don't even know the hierarchy of the bowls beyond the Cheez-It Bowl. I know that it goes out, the big ones, Alamo, Cheez-It. I was like, what's after that?
Yeah, as a beat, we Googled it. We
had to
literally
Google
Googled it after the game. The good news, if you're an Oklahoma fan, this team, with the emphasis they put on being in the classroom, all that stuff, 5-7, their graduation rate might vault them into a bowl at 5-7. That right now,
Good point.
West Virginia is getting smacked 28-7 at halftime in Austin.
Okay, so they are as bad as we think.
So let's circle West Virginia. Boom. Oklahoma's got to 4.
There's 4.
Who can they upset? Who could?
Again, that's in Morgantown. So.
Yeah. Well, it might be a head coachless West Virginia team, which Oklahoma very good against interim head coaches.
1-0. 1-0 and in dominant fashion.
Want to know this way? I think they went 2-0 last year. So
Let's obviously. So we spun it forward. Let's spin it forward even in a greater sense. We're 5 games into this Brent Venables era. What's the concern level for you guys that Brent maybe isn't the guy? Because I'm sure that's conversations being had now.
I'll tell everybody what the question I got on Twitter that I set out in the press box out there, and that is, how long does Brent Venables' contract run?
That I saw.
The question from Ryan was, the next question is about a buyout. What's Brent Venables' buyout? Stop.
I got a tweet today that said the
He's
Brent
gonna
Venables
be here
honeymoon era is over.
Oh, it's definitely over.
yeah.
Even if this was just a regular loss, it would be over.
Well,
But get blown out like this, fans of this guy's not the guy.
I think it's important to note too that our conversation was concerning is the Oklahoma fan base ready for the SEC? Have they hit SEC levels of what's going on Twitter? And that's where we brought in the conversation about buyouts and contract length and the replies that we got today. But I mean, this is 2 weeks in a row that we've come in to a post-game press conference and the coaching staff's frustrated. Obviously, they care a lot, all that crap, but they have no answers. I think it's more concerning that Brent Venables is going back to all these tiny little things that should be hey, if a guy's in position and gets run over, that's one thing, but the fact that they have massive busts, all this stuff, it reeks of offensively, they're pressing, they're feeling the pressure, defensively, the concern. We touched on this a little bit in the offseason, but what's your big concern on the defense? What if it's too complicated, too fast, and there's busts left, right, center? Well, you didn't see that through 3 weeks. Now, 2 weeks later, that's all you've seen. So
don't break their table. Who?
Yeah, don't break the table.
My sunglasses.
We've now got staff looking at us.
We've been here so long.
The staff looked and they're like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, there's a late cleaning staff. I'm not sure who that is. That they're like, "What are these guys doing?"
Yeah, but I mean, they'll go back, they'll watch the film, all that stuff. But I'm telling you, my first question out of the gate to Ted Roof, if it doesn't get asked before that, is: do you guys need to simplify things defensively? Is running basically 2 defensive systems,
2 different defenses,
taking its toll? Because when you're playing UTEP and Kent State and Nebraska, you can slap people around. You've played 2 real living, breathing football teams. You got your 4-man front run over, and you got your 3-man front sliced, diced every which way you want.
Yeah, I'm not there yet either with Brent. Obviously, I think you're kind of ridiculous if you are. Obviously, you got to give more leash. Now, I will say, we need to not do You can be both. You can be both sides of it, and and say Brent, he needs more time, and he just got here. Let him actually get his players here. Like we were talking about earlier, he doesn't have the guys that he wants. He's confused and frustrated because he feels like they're just not doing what I'm saying for them to do, kind of a thing.
He's coaching with Alex Grinch's players,
but
and a bunch of transfers.
But at the same time, while that is also true, let's also not do the thing that people are doing, which is, Bob Stoops was 75 that first year. Nick Saban was 6'6". They took over way worse teams. This should not be happening. So both things can be true. Brent, this is extremely disappointing and shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't be talking about bowl eligibility. That shouldn't be happening. So this is, you can say that this is not a good first 5 games, but also he does need more time. Both things can be true.
So Chisholm Hall and I on the franchise, we talked before the season, and basically the question that we asked each other was, this summer of recruiting was awesome. What is the worst that OU can do and you feel great that all those guys are still going to stay in the boat, right? And the number that we both came to was 9-3, maybe 8-4 if there's something wonky. Okay, so Dylan Gabriel leaving with a concussion. If he doesn't play against Texas and you lose that game, let's chalk that up to something wonky, okay?
Yeah.
Where are the 5 other wins coming to get to 8-4? Because the recruits are... You've seen it in the post, the aftermath of this, right? The recruits are tweeting out, still believe in BV, all that stuff. Fine, great, whatever. In the last 8 days, you got your rear end kicked twice in embarrassing fashion.
Especially today.
You got outbid, allegedly, for David Hicks with A&M. And you're telling me that all those... We talked about it. Oklahoma's winning heads up with Alabama. They won heads up with Georgia for Anthony Evans. Alabama and Georgia ain't going anywhere. And they're going to be like, hey, guys, see what Oklahoma's doing? You want to play early and be a part of what that might be, where it might not ever come out of that tailspin, because that's what Alabama and Georgia are saying. Not to say that's what I'm saying, but that's what their recruiters are going to say, going up heads up against Brent Venables. Or do you want to maybe sit a year or two here, but know that you're going to be on that assembly line, proven, all that stuff? And I think that's going to be more and more convincing if this keeps happening, because we look down the schedule and it's not looking good.
I think this also applies, at least for me, definitely to Jeff Levy as well. People are getting frustrated with him also. People get frustrated with everything with the team, with a game like this. But I think all judgments for Jeff Levy specifically should be reserved until he has Jackson Arnold here. Let him have Jackson Arnold here. If it's not working with that guy, then you can get upset. Until then, I mean, we talk about Dylan Gabriel a lot, and he got hurt today. And like we said, we're not trying to pile on the guy. He was a UCF transfer. He's not 5-star Elite 11 Jackson Arnold. Let Levy get his prized possession in here to actually run his offense and have the guys that he wants before you start to throw dirt on him as well. I think that guy... Now, Ted Roof's a little different. I don't know what to make of him right now. He's been at so many places. He was a weird hire when they made it. I don't know if fear's the right word, because I think we all like Ted Roof, talking to him on a week-to-week basis. You wonder if he's kind of that... He's the go-to scapegoat here. If Oklahoma is going to make like a big change at some point, that would be where it is.
Well, on the Levy front, real quick, I think there's 2 sides of it. One that I will hear and one that I am not really interested in. The first side of it is, again, you're dealing with a transfer quarterback, which if it wasn't Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma's going all in for Jackson Dart, and it's not a guarantee they win that, right? And then who? But for Dylan Gabriel to miss wide open wide receivers, there have to be wide open wide receivers. Scheme
right?
Good
point.
So that's that point. The one I will hear though is, who talked about this last week? Whether Oklahoma is scoring a touchdown or punting, it's happening in 80 seconds. When your defense is hemorrhaging, when your offense is got the yips, jittery, whatever.
Yeah.
I know it's tempo, and I'm not saying you need to go back to the Lincoln Riley. You snap it with 5 seconds left on the play clock, but maybe the tempo playing as fast as possible. Oklahoma just being in the dredges. They entering the game, they were 130 out of 131 in time of possession. Maybe that's where he needs to take a step back and say, we still want to run fast, but it doesn't have to be this fast to make sure that everything's in order. That's the part I'll hear on Levy, because again, is he getting too cute at times? Maybe, but to miss open receivers, there have to be open receivers, and that's play design.
Where are you at on the coordinators who've...
This is on the players. The system's in place The playbook has been studied. They've been working on it since the spring. How do you come out in your first 2 Big 12 conference games and you are lifeless? The mistakes that this, especially the defense, but the offense certainly is not absolved. The mistakes that this team has made are widespread and egregious and unforgivable. And how the hell? So I do think it's funky that you're running a 4-man front and then you switch to a 3-man front and then you switch back to a 4-man front and then you switch back to a 3. I think the players are going, what the hell is this? I think that's contributing. But I just think the players are lost. David Agwebu said tonight, we didn't get out physical. You did. You don't know what the scheme is, and so you're just a lot of guys are standing around going, what's the play call? What's my assignment? What am I doing? What should I have done on that one? And they're not playing full speed. They're playing hesitant. Brent Venables said Tuesday they're playing afraid to make a mistake. And when you do that, guess what you're going to make? A mistake. And you make a lot of them, as we saw tonight. I thought that was very telling. We're playing to not make a mistake. We're afraid to make mistakes. Come out here and make mistakes that are just really unforgivable mistakes that equate to what? 60, 70-yard touchdowns.
Just real quick, simple thought exercise. This is not a trick question. Was this an elite OU defense last year?
No.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
So it's not an elite OU defense last year running a odd man front. They lose Isaiah Thomas, Nick Benito, Perron Winfrey, Brian Asamoah.
Blair and Turniel.
Blair and Turniel.
5 guys who are currently on NFL rosters, right?
So it's not an elite unit last year. They lose all that production, and now you're asking them to run not one but 2 defenses essentially. Mm-hmm. How's that going to just from the thought process? If we just took a name off, took a helmet off, and I just told you those things, I don't care who the defensive coordinator is. I feel like 9 fans out of 10 would say bad idea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe, and this gets back to what I'm fascinated to ask Roof and Venables this week of, I think you need to simplify defensively, pick one, roll with it, because again, talent aside, they don't have defensive linemen that are the height and weight requirement to play what style of defense Brent Venables wants. It could be a 2-star, but they don't have just 300-pound plus guys that came to the program like that. They're having to reform their body, all that stuff. Much less the talent. Pick one system, learn that, and then as you add the talent over years, then you can add more. As the guys understand the system and are able to teach it to the younger guys, then you add more. Then you add more. Then you're recruiting at the high level like Clemson was, then you can throw whatever out there because you got dudes all over the place. How many dudes does this team have? Maybe Billy Bowman?
Gonna be a hell of a week coming up here. Just hearing what these guys have to say, and I mentioned this on the post game wrap, which is on AllSooners.com. Want to mention again, shout out to Oklahoma today for having a real post game. That was nice because we were kind of joking about on the field after a game like this. It would not be unheard of at all for Brent Venables to go up there for 10 minutes and then leave, and that's all you get. Levy answered questions, Roof answered questions, and they had a bunch of players come out and answer questions. So they faced the music. Yeah, they didn't dodge it. No reason to think they'll dodge it this week. So we'll hear from everybody again and see how they pick up the pieces and where that confidence level is. It can't be very high going into the Texas game next week. Final thoughts?
Nope.
Before we wrap up and you're done with this game.
Yeah,
You've had it.
Yeah, we could talk about this game for days, or we could talk about it for 15 minutes. I think.
And we'll talk about it more on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And be sure to catch the Wednesday show. We'll watch it back. We'll hear what Brent has to say and the coordinators after.
I think I want to talk about Texas on Wednesday.
Oh, we will.
I don't want to talk about this game anymore.
Oh, we have to. We will. I want to talk about this game over and over and over.
Well, you said we're going to watch it back. I don't know what more we're going to glean from watching this thing back, except for maybe some RG3 puns on the broadcast.
Yeah, no kidding. Not good. Not good, Bob. This was a rough one today. Oklahoma gets hammered 55-24. That's it for us. Again, AllSooners.com. A ton there. Brent's post-game comments, the coordinators, players, post-game stories, game highlights, the wrap-up. It's all there. check it out if you just can't get enough of this game. Some people are like that. Some people, when they lose, they just give me all. I'm like that. When the Yankees get eliminated from the playoffs, I just feed me all the just sorrow Yankee content. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like that, and we're here for you.
Speaking of the Yankees, fire tweet from TCU today.
Yep, that was a good one.
Who hit 62 first, TCU or Aaron Judge?
The answer's neither.
That was sent out from the TCU Horned Frogs account.
With 55 points.
The TCU Horned Frogs account.
Official account.
Yeah,
in the third quarter of a game.
Piling on.
My worlds were colliding today in a major way with Aaron Judge cutting into OU football games. I didn't obviously see that. I'm down on the field, but people were upset.
Guys, this beatdown was so bad. Last thing. The TCU fans were bored of the SEC chants by the second half. They didn't even care.
That was a weak field storm. Why did they do that?
Well, again, they didn't care.
Yeah. A lot of them had left by then.
Yeah.
Not the students. Students were here they were waiting for that storm. They were like, we're storming this thing. And they waited to the very end. That student section was full the whole time, basically. It was pretty crazy, actually. Oklahoma gets dominated. Not much else to say. I think we covered it, pretty much everything. A lot to digest and to figure out. But next week is the Texas game. The best game that exists, arguably, in this sport. I love it, even though it's not the greatest spectacle this year with the way the teams are playing. Both teams with 2 losses. It's got to be a while since that's been the case. We'll see what happens next week. We'll talk about it a lot.
2013, I think.
Was that
14, 13 or 14?
Was it 2020?
Oh, you had 2
losses.
losses. Did Texas already have 2 losses?
Well, Brian Brinkley tweeted out, I think it's like 2 games in the 20s and then 2020. Stand by.
No, it was 4 games total that it's happened. I can't remember.
In 2020, OU was 1-2, so they definitely had 2 losses. But I thought Texas was still okay at that point. Maybe not.
2 losses when they meet next Saturday. This comes from Brian Brinkley. Only happened 4 times since the series began being played at the Cotton Bowl in October of 1929. And they've all happened since I was born. 96, 97, 98, and 2016. Yeah, 2016.
So because they're not 20. So Texas did not have 2 losses then. So.
Yeah.
There you have it. It's gonna be a spectacle. I still fully expect it to be 50-50, massive crowd, insanity, because that's what that game is. That's what that game is. And OU fans should obviously, you should deliver that, because Texas, there's been some really bad Texas teams that have limped in there and have played with Oklahoma and even beat them and had great crowds, even though they stunk. Charlie Strong and whatnot. So Oklahoma fans should still pack out their side, I think, and it'll be great as it always is. We'll eat some Fletchers, 8 a.m. Fletchers before the game.
Absolutely.
As you have to, and then one after the game as well. You gonna do the fried cheesecake again after the game?
Absolutely.
I might have to try that.
I'm a fried cookie dough guy.
Frozen cheesecake for me.
I'm a big fan of the fried Twinkie, but I got that at the Oklahoma State Fair.
Gotcha.
So I have some wiggle room. I might try your cheesecake. You don't like that?
No, the Twinkies are gross.
How do I get? I got State Fair food DIY is what she just.
Shout out Siri's ready. Siri's like, OU Texas, big Tex. Let's hit it.
Big Tex, baby. We'll talk about that game on Wednesday. We're gonna break it all down. So catch our podcast then. You can listen to that one, of course, on Spotify, Google, iHeart, wherever you get your podcast. If you have an Amazon device, just say, Alexa, play the AllSooners podcast. It's posted on our website, of course, allsooners.com. Click on the playlist on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. You can watch all these podcasts as well on YouTube, the post-game shows, as well as the Wednesday shows. Where are you driving?
I'm driving home.
Good luck with that.
That shows you just where we're at mentally.
Ready to get out of here for sure. That's it from Ammon Carter Stadium. Maybe for the last time. Maybe we're back in 2 years. Oklahoma may want to slow play that SEC move after today. So we may be back here in a couple years. Who knows? If not, maybe this was the last time forever. Who knows? That's it for now, though. We'll see you Wednesday. We'll break down this, maybe no more of this game. I don't know. We'll look ahead to OU Texas mainly. We'll see you then. For Ryan Chapman and John Hoover, I'm Josh Callaway. We'll catch you guys next time.